Hello, everyone. Salim Omar here, joining you for this special presentation uh, for this afternoon. And we are going to be kicking off in a few seconds. I see people entering the virtual room. Those of you who are already on it, welcome. Thanks for taking the time out. This is going to be pretty awesome. I am super excited. Our presenter, Lani. Hey, Lani, just say hello so people know you can.
Hello, Salim. Is my picture coming up there?
Uh, I can. I think it's attempting to. It says paused. So
Yeah, see if it'll grab it.
it's making every attempt to come in there. All right. While that happens, folks, everyone is on mute so that to minimize background noises, but you've got the questions pane to type in your questions. So let's kind of do a quick sound check to make sure that you can hear us, you can see me at least so far. Lani is not visible yet in terms of his webcam. So just kind of type something in that you can see a PowerPoint that says crushing COVID, a three-step approach.
Yes, I'm not seeing me either.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I don't know why.
I don't either.
Let me see if there's any function there. But no, I don't have any control there with your thing. So folks, please take a moment, type in. So before we start, we want to make sure you guys can hear us and see us. Type something in the questions pane, which is on the right-hand side, small little thing that, to make sure we are all good from a sound check standpoint and a visual standpoint. Hey, Shamir. All right, awesome. Very cool. People can see us and awesome, good. Hey, Mike. Wonderful, great. I think we are ready to rock and roll. We've got an hour. It's going to be fast-paced, and there's going to be some really good information that Lani is going to share on how to navigate through the challenging times now. And Lani, why don't you take it from here?
Let me take it from here. And
Awesome.
don't worry that you don't have a picture of me because there's a picture of me in the slides. So it's a much better picture than I am. It was taken when I was 11, so So anyway, okay, now let me get you off of here. Okay, we're good. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, I guess now. Salim and I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedules to attend this webinar. I can't remember when there was so much fear and uncertainty in the world, and the small business community in particular, than what we face right now. I've been through multiple recessions, market crashes, the dot-com bubble bursting, 9/11, but nothing like the impact that the COVID-19 virus has had. Think about it. 9/11 happened in one city, but transformed a great deal of how the world travels, and what physical security measures we face and take in our everyday lives. One city and in one country. This spans nearly 200 countries worldwide. The overall impact will be far-reaching, and it could be 12 to 18 months in the making. The impact on small business has been absolutely heightened during these troubling times, where many have had to either broadly curtail operations or shut down completely. But as restrictions begin to loosen and stimulus money finally reaches many of you, I'll touch on that later, life must go on. Small business account for nearly half of the jobs in the United States, so our economy is depending on that life going on. For the next 45 minutes or so, I hope to provide you a three-pronged way to deal with the fear and uncertainty of what the new normal might turn out to be. Because I don't know, my crystal ball is no better than yours. While at the same time, actually make your business stronger, leaner, more nimble, be able to react to the unknown that we all face. Now, a word of caution and a promise. As you probably already can tell, I'm not shy. I have some pretty strong opinions. They're all based on often painful experience. You may not agree with everything I say, but I do promise you that it won't be boring, and hopefully will get you to think a little more differently and give you some critical things that you can walk away with that can help you not only survive these times, but thrive in them.
Awesome. Cool. Hey, Lonnie, let's make sure that the slide is going to the, oh, yeah. So Lonnie, that's him, the picture. I've known Lonnie for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. He's a local New Jersey person, so am I. And we've had many meals together and gotten to know each other. And he brings a wealth of knowledge and information and insights. And awesome. Yeah, next slide is perfect there. Folks, would love to get your interaction as well. So kind of type in anything that stands out for you, type that comment in, and I'll try to do the best so we can really have a group interaction here as best as we can. Lonnie's going to share his insights, but I'd love to get your feedback as well.
Today, we'll not only share these things with you, but we'll show you some things that I've learned that I think will enable you to create a battle plan to help cope with market uncertainty and better manage your cash, deepen your relationships with your key constituencies, your employees, your customers, your vendors. And then we'll talk about how to execute on this battle plan, that it allows you to more easily pivot to leverage market opportunities or changes as they arrive in this new normal. And we'll leave some time for questions at the end. First, a little bit about me. I have had the Entrepreneur's Yoda sobriquet for probably 12 years when I started writing a blog post years back. And if anybody has a question, yeah, I've had my dealings with Lucasfilms. But it wasn't until I put a website up and used Yoda's picture. They didn't like that much. We chatted a bit, and after a threatening letter from their outside law firm, I took the website down, changed it all around, and never a reference to Star Wars, except for one little thumb my nose at them. After every blog post, I end it with the same phrase: "May success be with you." I've seen small business from every conceivable angle. I've started them, bought them, sold them, turned them around, advised and mentored them, even invested in them. So my framework is based on a lot of varied experience, but almost all from the perspective of a business owner like you. Now, this future that we have is a strange one. You can only right now watch it happen. The stimulus program, less than 15% of businesses under 5 million got money in the first round. $200 million was turned back by public companies because there was no rules. I mean, hey, you want to see if you can screw something up? Have 3 of the most tone-deaf organizations in the world work on it: Congress, the SBA, and the big banks. Hot dog. Anyway, more on that later. The new normal has no roadmap. There's no guidance, solutions, whatever. You're just playing it out. My advice to my clients is: short term is the end of the week, long term is the end of the month. The most important thing to do, though, is to create a battle plan. Now, a battle plan, distinguish this from a business plan in that you're in the foxhole. You have incoming. You don't have time to go back to the war room and think about this. You got to put something down, and it's got to be able to change. You have to be able to get ready, be ready, and stay ready. That's really what this is about. So let's talk about this battle plan for the new normal. It has a 3-pronged strategy. Okay? Cash isn't just king, it's everything. And then ongoing strategies and tactics for solidifying relationships with employees, customers, and vendors. Okay? And each sets the stage to build on. Okay, we'll talk about the execution of this toward the end of the presentation. But this is the foundation.
And so just before we go to the next thing there, folks, what's one thing that it resonated with you? You like nodded your head and you said, Yeah, agreed, or makes sense. What is that? Love for you to type that in, and I'll share kind of feedback from folks as you do that. Lani, move on, but I want people to kind of
Sure, sure,
I
sure.
want them to be in this conversation. This is, really information we want to bring to you, and I want to kind of get your feedback as well as we move along. So cool. Let's go. Let's move on.
And if I told you I have a set of tools that could achieve this end, this cash flow end, who's not signing up for this? I mean, cash drives the bus. It's turnarounds and advising several hundred companies over the years. I've learned to use several simple tools. I've implemented them in virtually every situation or client I've worked in or with over the past 20 plus years. And the success I achieved was this 30 to 50% increase in cash flow over the first 90 to 120 days. Now let's explore them and how you can use them to better manage cash in good times as well as in times like these. The cash flow tools are pretty simple. They enhance. They basically are, an 8-week cash flow forecast. Basically a sales forecast, backlog, which is to be billed and shipped over the next 30 to 60 days, and AP. As the CEO and owner, cash is always the number one thing I worried about, not the P&L. How many years have you shown positive operating income for the year, but at times during the year, you had to scramble to make payroll, and it came as a surprise? These cash flow tools will absolutely help you. So let's
And
talk about
so, and so you can have a business, Lonnie. When you say P&L, you can have a business that's profitable, yet it's challenged from a cash flow standpoint, correct?
cash poor. Yes.
It,
And that happens more often than not with businesses, because most accounting systems are on the accrual basis, and so it looks like we're making money. Yeah, except the balance in the checking account doesn't look that way. And that's really what this is about. It's all about cash. So the cash flow tools start with a simple Excel spreadsheet, and it's called a rolling 8-week cash flow forecast. Why 8 weeks? It's absolute outside before the forecast become just a good guess. Over time, I've found that I can pretty well forecast 4 weeks, and the next 4 probably with 50 to 60% accuracy. And you'll learn that this works. And it's a rolling schedule every Monday. It starts with every Monday, and I have an example of this. I will actually go through a case study of an actual client of mine from several years back, and kind of how they did it, and at least you can relate to it. What it does is it tracks and forecasts your cash balance in the bank, your accounts receivable and new billings, and your payables and new invoices received or scheduled payments. Now, obviously, you're going to use your finance folks and accounting firm to help you implement, but you should understand it. I actually have owners who do this themselves because they're kind of hands-on guys anyway, and that's kind of the way the thing has evolved for them. Now, the other tools, the 30-day sales forecast is what's expected to close in the next 30 days. When can we bill it and collect it? You'd be surprised how many small businesses don't track this. It's, stuff comes in over the fence. Well, that was a surprise. And then there's a backlog. Like if you're a manufacturing company, basically you get a sale in, but you don't ship it the day you may make it to order. So consequently, you'll have a booking, but not a billing. Okay. So then the question is, when can we ship, bill, and collect it? Everything focused around cash. And then there's the other side. What are accounts payable? What are the vendors where we're over 45 days? And this is going to become a very big deal over the next several months, because if you've scaled back your operation, or you've even had to close your doors, you're going to reopen them because you got a stimulus payment. you're going to have terms that you're going to have to negotiate with various vendors. Okay, and all this feeds the cash flow forecast. Okay, so and let's bring this to life with an actual case study. Okay, this was a former client, as I said, several years back. Little background: I was asked by a close attorney friend to take a look because the company was in deep trouble. More importantly, he wasn't getting paid. So when I went in, they were in a lot worse shape. It was kind of like my old phrase is he asked me to be the doctor, and what they needed was an undertaker. And they were probably a month from filing an 11 or even a 7. Their books were a mess, and their cash even worse. And I'll touch on a couple of those when we get to the disbursements. So we started there. All right. So basically, what the rolling 8-week forecast looks like is it's 8 weeks, and the orange line there is actual. That's what happened last week. Okay, and basically, everything, but everything lives and dies. For me, the most important thing next to cash is revenue, because without revenue, you don't have anything else. You surely don't have profit. And it's like I've done 8 turnarounds, and I can give you two rules I operated by. 1, it starts at the top line. 2, you can't cut your way to profitability. So revenue is all important. Get revenue any way you can. And better you get revenue with terms than not get it at all. Okay? The rolling 8-week tracks how, when revenue comes in, when and how you should be collecting it, when we bill and when we'll collect it. That's what this chart, this first part of the chart is about. It's when we're going to get cash in. Okay? If you've got a credit line or loan proceeds, that'll come in as we see. The hard part about this is it's one big spreadsheet. I had to break it up into 3 pieces. So you're gonna have to visualize, but I left the dates and everything the same, so you'll begin to see exactly what we're talking about. So basically, cash in. Every Monday, we started with cash in the bank, which is the beginning cash balance, and then we started with where we were with receivables, okay, and we collected what we collected. So this particular week, the last week in December of that year, basically we started with 20 grand in the bank, and we collected 40. So total cash in 40 grand. All right, now how will that impact us? Well, that's when we go to the next. Chart, which is disbursements. Now this is much busier than you would typically have it, because he wanted line items, because he owed so much to so many people. He wanted to keep track, and there were certain people that he had to pay. That's what the highlights in yellow are. So, last week he ended up with a cash balance of, remember, he started with 20 grand, as you recall. He ended up with 17, okay, or almost 18, and that was how he was going into go into the next week. So that would become the cash balance he starts with, and he goes through it. Now the red down the bottom are the weeks when he had shortfall. Well, that's looking forward, we're going to have a shortfall the week of January 14th, of $6,500. What do we do? But it's good to know that now, 2-3 weeks ahead of time, so that we could do a couple of things. 1, maybe we can expedite some collections, or 2, maybe we can move some payments around. Maybe we can talk to suppliers and say, hey, I know we owe you this and we've made payment terms, or normally you want them in 30 days. We're in a little cash bind. Can we move this out? And you start to move things like a week at a time. And what you're trying to do is match cash out with cash in. So you want to be able to collect it faster if you can, or pay it slower if you need to. I can't tell you how many times I have walked into a situation where they say we have a cash problem. Our collections are averaging 60 days. I say, okay, well, my next question is always, and what are your payables average? How we pay those in probably 15, 20 maybe. What's wrong with this picture? And it's solely because, you know, the bookkeeper had instructions, and the instructions were to pay this way, and it wasn't about collecting, it was about paying. So these are things to be aware of, and this is a very simple kind of report that will help you do this. I mean, these guys were, you see the line item that's payroll there, these guys were actually 2 payrolls behind. So they had to catch up. They hadn't filed 941s in a couple of months. So it's a, you know, it becomes a big deal. And then when you're finished 1 week, it becomes the actual, and you roll out another week of forecast. So it's a fairly simple, and this is, as I said, this is much more granular than the typical rolling 8-week forecast. Okay, and then, you know, and then the last thing is we track sales and accounts receivable, so that we can then, you know, we know what our beginning account, you know, accounts receivable were. Now we know what we have left. That's 18. Okay, and remember what we have is also, we got 17 in cash. So now we're dealing with the two numbers that we can pretty well count on. Okay, we know what we can collect, and we know what we have. So now we kind of operate that way, and then what we'll try to do is see if we can move this collections line a little bit to the left. That's really the whole thing about this. Salim, you want to see where we are? Have we got everybody's eyes glazed over yet?
Yeah. No, this is absolutely amazing stuff. It's such a valuable tool. You know, what we're doing is it's, you know, forecasting 8 weeks. As each week is finished, is completed, we're putting in the actual numbers, and then we're forecasting, you know, we've got a forecast of the numbers ahead of us. So it gives us a lot of visibility, especially during times like these, the uncertainty that we have, when is cash going down and when it's going to be steady and so forth. So it helps us in planning forward. So some comments have come in, and I'm going to share them. When I asked what resonated with folks so far, and Kathy says solidifying relationships resonates with me. Van says cash is king, and it absolutely is. You can have a very profitable business that goes out of business, that shuts its doors because they run out of cash. So this cash flow forecast that Lonnie is talking about is incredibly useful. Craig says implementation is my question. How in the methods and message? Awesome. Cool. Van says with stimulus cash influx, now I have a crown. What do I do with the extra cash flow? Lonnie, you want to answer that question?
I mean, that's a really nice problem to have. Okay, you can invest it. My guess is, in the near term, I would be sitting on it. I'd keep it in a interest bearing, checking account if you could. But frankly, if you're in a positive cash position, you're in the absolute minority these days. Okay, it's because it's all right now. Cash is extraordinarily important, and I say this. The interesting thing is I've done this similar presentation, but I've presented this with two accountants, CPAs, and they're not used to dealing with it this way. See, this is, and I'm a kind of a simple thinker. Okay, I mean, I'm an undergraduate electrical engineer, so that'll tell you everything you need to know. Now, I've run a zillion kinds of businesses, and And where I take this from is when I was a kid, periodically my dad would want me to buy him a paper. And we'd go to the corner, around the corner. I lived in the city, the luncheonette, and I'd get a paper there. And I loved going there because they had comic books and the like. But in any event, this one time I went and I paid him and he gave me change. So he reaches under the counter into a cigar box and gives me his change. And I looked at him. I said, what's that? He said, that's my business. He said, in the morning, I put $100 in there. And during the day, I have to pay suppliers and things, and I get money in. And at the end of the day, if I have more than $100, I made money. If I have less, I didn't. That's a pretty simple way of looking at business. Almost simplistic. But it's, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. If you don't have the cash, you can't grow the business. You can't add people. So that's the other thing is, if you've got extra cash, think about where you can invest it in the business. Always keep it in the business if you can, especially over the next 12 to 18 months. Don't invest it anyplace else. In fact, if you have that luxury, good for you. You've done something really right to get there.
Awesome.
Any others?
Good. Go ahead, Lonnie, and then I want to share a few more thoughts that have come in.
All right.
I'm sorry. I thought you were saying you were giving more advice. Let me read a few more thoughts that have come in.
Oh, yeah, please.
Sure, absolutely. Dr. Z saying, I loved how he said the new norms for short-term and long-term, that is end of the week and end of the month. Yeah, that was pretty powerful, Lonnie, when you had shared that when we were conversing. So what is short-term and what is long-term? End of the week is short-term, end of the month is long-term. And then Dr. Z also says, great time to rethink that for me, as I've always looked at quarterly or yearly, now I've got so much and reanalyzing everything.
Quarterly and annually are nice budget ideas. Okay. Cash flow now is weekly. And if it's anything longer than that, good for you. But no, weekly. And get into that habit, and it's a habit you won't break. I mean, I have clients from years back who still use this because they swear by it. Because basically what it does is it gives them, well, let me lead right to it. It gives them that it's about cash, not about the P&L. Okay, and it ought to fit the way you do business, but it also helps you to show when cash might get tight and when you might have to really work with some of your customers for collections, where you may have to give terms to them, where you have to communicate with suppliers to move payments or negotiate new terms, or if you're fortunate enough to have a credit line or a loan, you're able to tap it. More importantly, these tools enable you to ask what if questions that can help you smooth cash flow in the future. That help?
Makes a lot of sense. Yep. Awesome. Cool.
Okay. So let's move on to how you solidify your critical relationships as part of this battle plan. All right, during these difficult times, you've got critical relationships that you have to keep, and you have to keep them intact. The first is with your employees. Okay? If you have to reach out to all of them, especially the key ones, and even the ones who've been furloughed or laid off. If they're people who you would bring back, reach out to them. And don't send them an email, call them. Be more personal. Ask them to come in, sit down with them, explain your battle plan, because you're going to have one. This is not a one size fits all, guys. This is, it's a thought process. It's get yourself in that mindset, that weekly to monthly mindset, okay, and put your plan together and the timing when you're going to implement, et cetera. Because Some people, if they've been out of business, they're going to come back up to speed, but they're going to come back up to speed slower. Well, because they've either curtailed operations or they've been out of operations. And you've got to explain what that's going to mean and what it's going to mean to the employees. And then, there's the unknown. How do you intend to cope with that? And there's no good answer. I mean, these are some of the things we might try, et cetera. But the most important thing is to really regain their trust, what their role is going to be and why they're important. But also, it's their trust in the company that the company's going to survive. Okay? And future success with employee relationships will be, and they have always been, based on candid and frequent communication. Okay? I have a whole other thing that I do often for companies and organizations and whatever. I believe that you build an employee-centric company a customer-centric company by creating an employee-centric culture. So you get the employees to feel like they are part of something, they are contributing, they are trusted, they are valued. And you solidify that. And that basically then, gets you to a point where you're able to further solidify your customer and vendor relationships.
And one thing I would add with the employees, Lonnie, would be that having regularly scheduled weekly meetings with them, with the people that that stayed, that are there, that are working. This is the opportunity to really step up your leadership game. You're the leader, and you're part of leadership. One of the attributes of leadership is communication. So communicating with your team on a very regular basis, even if it's remote, it's a Zoom call or something of that sort, whatever platform you use. But it's really having your team and establishing a platform that's done on a very regularly scheduled time and day in the week.
Could not agree more. I mean, and especially with a lot of more virtual employment, where people may not be coming back in or may not be in, they may be working from home. How do you keep them as part of the company? That is really important. And it's not just having meetings to have meetings. No, it's having a purpose. And some of the stuff that Salim does is really, really interesting to get the people together. Okay, and each meeting's got a purpose. They're regularly scheduled, et cetera. And I think that's something to think about for almost anybody. I mean, this is another way. That's why I said the last line is really everything. Okay, whatever you do, it's candid and frequent communication. Whatever format you're comfortable with, whatever it is, it's got to be frequent. And it's got to be straight from the shoulder. Now, let's go on to the others. Now, the point is with this, especially with customers, not on this slide, but something to think about. And that's something I believe in. And that is, employees will treat customers exactly the way they're treated. So when you come back into the new normal, that's something to keep in the back of your mind. But with customers now, where you may have been out of touch or whatever, you got to reach out to all of them and make it about them. Find out their status. How are they faring in this new normal, as we might call it? Have they had layoffs? Have they gotten any stimulus payments, et cetera? And what could you do to help? What could you do to be a part of it? And it's that feedback that should enable you to start to rebuild the relationship, because this is really, over the last 6 to 8 weeks, has really fractured some relationships because we've not had the face time. We've not been able to really talk to customers the way we did before, because they were, they may not have been working, they may have been home, whatever the reason. But as we start to come back into things, and then I think that's going to start to happen over the coming weeks and months for sure, it's important that you reach out to all of them, and then describe your battle plan. Describe how it, how much a part of it they are, and then a game plan for how you will partner with them and communicate better. If you are, one of the things is, I've run a lot of technology companies, and one of the things I found to be one of the single most important elements of technology companies was a user group, where basically you got customers who would be very honest with you, and they would be telling you about your product, etc. Well, you can elevate that a level. It's really get a group of customers and do a focus group with your customers. How they look at the way you were before? How should you change as you go into the future? At a minimum, weekly touch points, either by you or one of your team, and then do group customer Zoom calls with a discussion topic. Have one of them picking something they're going through, or something they want you to do, or something you're going through. Any of those would work really, really well. But it's whatever it is that's going to help you solidify that relationship and become part of your battle plan. On the vendor side, same thing. Reach out to them and make it about them. Same thing. How are they faring? Okay. It's what have they had? How can we become better partners? How can we work better together? Okay. And then talk about your cash flow plan. Because my guess is, with some of them, you're going to have to get agreement on payment terms. Because with some of them, especially if you've had to curtail operations, that's going to be extraordinarily important to regain their trust and regain that relationship. Okay, at a minimum, bi-weekly touch points by you, key member of your team, on a regular schedule though. And periodically, especially the really big suppliers that are really key to what you do. They could be the wholesaler into your business where you retail it out. Periodically make them part of some team meetings. This is critically important as you move ahead. These two sets of relationships, customer and vendor, on the external side, is it as important as the internal side, employees. Any things we want to kick around there on those?
Yeah. Let's get. I'd love to get input from folks. What's kind of the thing that's resonated with you so far? What's making sense to you? What is Lani said, yeah, I do this and I'm glad I do it, or I need to pay attention to this. I'd love to get feedback from folks on this. And while people are typing stuff in, there was more stuff that came in, Lani, after the last kind of gap that we had there. Let me quickly read what people were saying.
Sure.
We've got a very interactive group here, which is awesome. Love that. Yeah, if you'd like slides recording, we'll make that available, a replay as well. So
at the end of the thing, I'll give you.
We'll do that.
I'll give you how to do that.
Craig saying, especially the restaurant landscape, even during good times, that's been really That's one industry that's been hit very
Oh my
hard.
goodness.
Is the
Oh,
restaurant industry.
God bless
Michael
you.
saying, how do you reframe cash flow in the COVID-19 world? Historical numbers don't matter. How do you forecast going forward? Wow, excellent question, Mike.
Oh, it is. It is. It's, and it's again, it's one of these things. It's like, wow, my crystal ball is not a lot better than yours, but I mean, the point is, it's really going back to customers. Really understand which ones are going to still be with you, which ones are going to go to the sidelines, which ones are going out of business. So that's the first thing to do. Again, I'm not, my viewpoint is the business starts at the top line. So the first thing I look for is how do we get revenue? Because without revenue, we can't get cash. And so that's how I look at it. So I am now talking to every customer. I'm reaching out to them because I don't have any history to go on that makes sense because they were ordering and now I've curtailed operations. Like a restaurant, for example. You haven't had any customers for 8 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever. And well, when they come back, they'll come back on a smaller scale because of social distancing and the like. What's that going to mean? And what's it mean to your suppliers? Okay, how will they react? And it's so we're all looking at a really kind of black box future. And so we have to guess. Well, take the guesswork out and talk to people, talk to your suppliers, talk to your customers, and see where they think this is going. Because you're all in this together. That's why I put customers and vendors as almost one set of relationships, but they're not. They're separate. But you need to have those. They're as important as the employees because they will also tell you how many employees you're going to have. So they're all tied together, which is why I make it part of the battle plan.
Makes sense. Awesome. Cool. Van's asking or saying, I'm sitting on accounts receivable because I don't need the cash flow because I have money from PPP. Is my approach a good strategy?
No, because the PPP money will run out. Okay. And you got to get the business back up. Look at the PPP as finger in the dike. Well, you can't keep your finger in the dike forever. So it's only a finger in the dike. While the finger's in the dike, you better be figuring out how you're going to live on the other side of it. And then here's a word for you on the PPP. There's a lot of noise about this. Remember something, because what they're saying is 75% of that should go to payroll. Operative words there are should go to. Because if they go to it and you prove it, it's a grant. Okay, got it. Cost me nothing. But if they don't, it's a 1% loan for a year. And you're going to get those kinds of terms where? Nowhere. Use that as the finger in the dike. Worry about the back end of that when you got to worry about the back end of that. This is somebody threw you a life raft. Okay, use it properly. That's what I tell you about PPP. If you got it, good for you. But remember that that's just one time. So you've got to go on beyond that. Hope that answered the question.
Yep, perfect. Yeah, what you said is use, don't stop accounts receivable, get that machine continuing to run. And it's not like you need to use what funds you use, as long as you spend the money. It's not, the government is not tracing where the source of that money is, right? It's really the disbursement. So as long as you spend 75% of that money towards payroll, the other 25% towards rent, interest, utilities, and so forth, you're cool. If you don't, if you spend lesser than that, then it's prorated, where
Then it
some
becomes
partially it's
then
going
it
to be a
becomes
loan.
but it's a very cheap loan. So I mean, it's the important thing is at this time, cash is king. Cash is king.
So bring the cash in.
That's it. And
bring the cash in from accounts receivable.
Get it in. We'll figure the rest out later. I mean, and I don't mean that. I'm not being dismissive of this. I'm not downplaying. It's important. Okay, but that's kind of how you have to look at it.
Next question comes from Dr. Z saying, is this something we should keep permanently in addition to quarterly and annual projections? So he's talking about, I believe, referencing the 8-week cash flow forecast. So,
yeah.
Lani?
Yes. I have clients that have been using this for 10 years. Okay. It's part of their forecasting. Okay. This is something they do every week, whether they need to or not. I mean, and all it does is it shows them, where they have to do things, where are they going to be, 6 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now? Are they going to have a downturn? Especially in bad times, this is the kind of thing that you need to have, because you're managing your cash almost on a weekly basis. No, you are managing on a weekly basis. And said during this time, that's short term. Okay, it's not even. It's long term actually, because it's the end of the week. I'm sorry, but it's a kind of a thing where it should become part of the way you operate. If you embrace it, now you have to embrace it. That's the important thing. You can't do it kind of half. So I think that's the critical element.
Statement more than a question from Craig saying, I've heard some bosses have been letting some employees to stay on. They've been allowing some employees to stay on, even though not getting paid. But when things get up again, they'll get raises or commission-based pay. Got it. More a statement than really a question there. Van saying, employees and vendors are partners. They are key elements to our success. Yeah, I mean, totally true. Right. And It's a nice way to look at it. Yes. Because it shows how we, treat them. If we treat them as partners, or are we going to treat them as, more distant? Hey, Matt, saying great ideas. Thank you, Lani. What is so important to these battle plan ideas is ensuring it is scheduled during the week and having someone hold you accountable to taking action. Yeah. Yes. 100%. It's Lani, what you just said, it's got to be embraced by the owner, by the CEO, because it becomes an important part of way of running the business using this important tool.
And if it's not embraced by the owner, it's not going to happen.
Dr. Z saying, I wasn't even thinking about discussing payment plans with the vendors and was just thinking about how I will access the funds to pay them in full to preserve those ever so vital relationships for me to continue my business. Yeah, cool. Having conversations. This is really the time, Lani. I mean, you and I have talked about it. It's, over communicating, with all the constituents surrounding the business, customers, vendors, employees, and so forth.
Here's what 20 years of turnarounds over, I did turnarounds over a 20-year period, taught me. Okay, never make a payment plan or a promise to a vendor or supplier, especially in the early going, that you can't keep. So the first, let's suppose you did them, you did every 3 weeks or something of that sort rather than monthly. Whatever you promise them for the first 3 or 4 or 5 payments, You have to be absolutely sure you can meet those. No matter how low, get them to a point where you know you can meet them, and then you try to beat them. But don't do a payment plan where you give them one payment and then you can't make any of the other ones, or you have to start to move them on the second payment, because then you'll lose credibility.
Makes sense. Van saying, I like the slide that states the way we treat our employees are the ways that employees will treat our clients. Yeah, I will share same sentiment with my staff. Dr. Z saying, great webinar. Thank you. Craig saying, no excess the accounts receivable. You need to get that revenue. Okay, that was to Van's question. Weekly forecast. That was if employees were still working with the firm. Cool. Good. Yeah, good stuff, man. Good questions, good insights and everything. Let's continue on.
So anyway, let's talk about the battle plan. And the interesting thing is, a plan, because one of the things I do is I help companies put plans together for various things. Anything from a strategic plan that says, we're going to double our size in the next 3 years through acquisition, whatever. Anybody can put a plan together. It's about execution. And the three-pronged strategy is incredibly important, but you got to execute, and you have to continue to execute, or it's going to be a waste of time. Now, two other critical points for the execution. Don't be introducing new products, services, or trying to service new customers. Not yet. Stay with what you got. Really focus hard on what you've got, because that's what you have. The customers you have are the ones who know you and the ones you know. Now, I'm not saying that you turn away new business from a new customer. No. All I'm saying is concentrate on those. Don't be introducing new products thinking that it will be the silver bullet, if you will. Stay with the stuff tried and true, okay, until we understand what the new normal is. And then be ready to pivot. When the strategy is not working, when the customers you have, a third of them are going out of business, or it's not relevant, you've got to figure out then where the opportunities are. So you've got to be really paying attention to the markets for your existing products, to the market for your existing customers. You've got to really pay closer attention than you've ever paid the entire life of your business. You'll find the opportunities there. And it may not be much different than what we have today. It's just, don't know. I mean, think about this. Think about Major League Baseball. I mean, do you think that they thought back in February that there's a question about their season? Think about their season. Let's suppose they play a 75-game season. Well, how about the guys who are concessionaires? Not going to have much hot dog sales, are they? Talk about pivot. They're guys that are going to have to pivot, because I'm sure a majority of their business came from Major League Baseball. What are they going to do with all those hot dogs? And well, wait a second, but people are just going to be watching the game on TV. Well, maybe you put together a home package or something. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing here, but that's the point. That's the difference between what we had and the new normal. The new normal is, at least for the remainder of the year, professional sports events without participation by fans. Empty stadiums. That's the new normal. So how do the guys who were making money from that make money tomorrow? They could just fold their tent and go out of business, or figure out how they work around this. There are opportunities in there. They've got to figure them out. So
Yeah, and so keeping eyes and ears open. This is not the time to, bury the head under the sand. It's,
no,
or get overwhelmed. I mean, many of us are going through this path here, and that's quite, that's come out in various ways that Lani has said. With his long experience, in the entrepreneurship world, where he has seen recessions, come and go. This is kind of what it is. So as a business owner, entrepreneur, service provider, you've got to keep your eyes and ears open and understand the degree of pivoting that you need to do in your business based on kind of where things are going to go. And the thing is, we don't know where things are going to go, so we got to kind of take it in strides as we're moving along. Think on a shorter term basis than longer term basis.
but here's the important thing. No matter what happens, these three things should be measurable results. Cash flow, based upon kind of what I've described for you, cash flow should be improved, and you'll have a better understanding of why. Employees should be more mutual trust and growth through better communication. You get them to love what they do and who they're doing it with. Customers and vendors, better relationships through better communication, mutual trust. And the end result is the ability to weather the new normal. You'll have a stronger, leaner, nimble company. You'll have market partners. Now, you may have to reinvent yourself. This is why I say be cognizant of what the opportunities are. You need to broaden your knowledge base so that you can leverage the new opportunities and totally focus only on what you can control. So if you're the hot dog concessionaire, you can't sit there and lament that no fans are coming in. You can't control that. What you can control is, what am I going to do with all these hot dogs? Questions?
Yeah.
Or more questions, I guess.
Yeah. The previous slide, if you go to that, let's kind of have and we are kind of towards the end as well.
Yes.
And it got me to ask this question. It's really Craig. He wrote here, what if the new product you offer? What is the new product you offer? What that's right for the situation? So it's along the lines of, Lani, what you shared there. You may need to reinvent yourself, which I 100% totally agree. Now, when it comes to broadening the knowledge base, what do you mean there? What can an entrepreneur do now in terms of broadening their knowledge base?
It's kind of do two things. One is pay more attention to the market than you ever have. Your market. How is it changing? How is the overall context of that market changing? In other words, what's going on outside of it that's going to, 30 million people are out of work. How is that going to change the way you think? So when I say broaden the knowledge base, it's as much learn new things, around your business and stay around your business. I mean, you could look at other stuff, but you see, if when I say this, what I'm saying is broaden the knowledge base around what you have. Now, you can go beyond that without question, but the point is, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, so I got to kind of take a down the center of the fairway approach here, and that's really what I'm saying. When I say broaden your knowledge base, learn more about what's going on in your business in your industry than you ever knew before. Learn more about what's going on in the surrounding community. What's happening with the vendors? What's happening with the customers? And this is on a higher level than just you and the vendor or you and the customer. It's how are they faring in their markets? Okay. Do you have a supplier that looks like they may go out of business? You got to figure out what you're going to have to do with that. Okay. But you got to stay on top of things much more than you ever did before. If all you're reading are your industry journals, not enough. Get yourself a subscription to the Wall Street Journal so you can pay attention every day to what they're saying about what market, where the markets are. Well,
Awesome. Yeah, great advice there. Cool. We are on the hour. Any final questions, thoughts, comments before we finish off in the next minute or so? Kind of want to invite Lonnie, if we can go to the next slide, and that's
yes.
kind of where the questions thing was. And many of you asked for slides, so two things. Lonnie's email is there for you to get that. Lonnie's phone number is there if you want to continue this conversation with him. So just different ways of kind of staying in touch and keeping the dialogue, continuing the dialogue. So you've got that. Yeah, just final thoughts, comments, Lonnie, before we finish off today.
For me, it's a challenging time for a small business owner. Maybe more challenging than any I've ever seen in my life. And what it's going to take is keep your head down and just burrow ahead. It's going to take more focus than you've ever had before. But you know what? If you really love what you do, you'll get through it. You'll get through it. And either Salim or I, we'd love to talk to you, help you, whatever, kind of what we do. This has been a lot of fun. I hope you all got something out of this that you can use. Because that's the whole idea. The idea is you can walk away with something that you can maybe put into practice this afternoon or Monday morning.
Yeah. No, this was truly amazing. The good stuff coming from, and I wanted you to share your, things that may even be obvious, but coming from, it sometimes confirms our own thinking, and coming from somebody who has been through so many recessions, owned so many businesses, sold businesses, and so forth. This was super valuable. So Lonnie, thank you. I know you put a lot of effort in, putting this together, and it was 100% give on your side. There's no ask here. And I truly appreciate it.
I mean, I enjoy, I do this. It's kind of like I would do this on a moment's notice. I love speaking in front of small business owners. I can't get enough of that because I guess small business owners are kind of my obsession is to help them any way I can. So
I can relate to that. You can wake me up at midnight and have a conversation about entrepreneurship or small business. Yes. I'll be ready. So cool. Thanks everyone for joining us. I really appreciate that. Hope you did get a lot from this, and have a great weekend, everyone. And we'll see you next time. Bye.